What if everything you thought you knew about your favorite TV show was a lie? Not a small lie. A carefully protected secret that Hollywood kept hidden for decades. A secret so uncomfortable that the people living it smiled through it every single day while the cameras rolled. A secret that changes everything you thought you knew about one of the most beloved shows in television history. Here is the truth about the Andy Griffith Show. It was not the happy family you grew up believing it was. Behind those white picket fences and that warm southern charm, real tensions were boiling. Real resentments were growing. And one cast member made life on that set almost unbearable for everyone around them. Today, you are going to find out exactly who that person was. You are going to hear what really happened behind the scenes. You are going to discover why even Andy Griffith himself carried a feud so deep it lasted for decades. And you are going to hear about a moment so raw and so honest that it will completely change the way you see this show forever. Stick with me until the very end, because I am saving the most shocking part for last. It connects what happened on that set decades ago to something happening in America right now. And once you hear it, you will never look at Ron Howard the same way again. You do not want to miss it. The Andy Griffith Show was not just a television program. It was a feeling. It was Tuesday nights on the couch with your family. It was a world where problems got solved by sundown and everybody looked out for each other. Millions of Americans grew up believing in the warmth behind it. That belief made the show special. It also made the truth much harder to swallow. Because here is what nobody told you. Some of the most beloved moments in that show were created by people who could barely stand to be in the same room with each other. The smiles were real. The tension behind them was too. And the people running that show worked very hard to make sure you never found out. So who was at the center of it all? Who was the one person that even a young Ron Howard, America's favorite red-headed kid, quietly dreaded working with every single day? Her name was Frances Bavier. You know her as Aunt B. Now before you click away, hear me out. This is not about tearing down a legend. Frances Bavier was a brilliant actress. She won an Emmy. She brought one of television's most iconic characters to life. Nobody is taking that away from her. But brilliant and easy to work with are two very different things. Bavier kept walls around herself that almost nobody could get through. While Andy Griffith was warm and funny and social off camera, Bavier stayed distant. She kept to herself. She rarely let anyone in. And to a young boy just trying to do his job and maybe get a smile from his TV aunt, that distance felt like rejection every single day. Ron Howard was not even a teenager when he started on that show. He was just a kid who showed up every day hoping to feel like part of a family. Instead, he got someone who never warmed up to him. Not once. Not in 8 full seasons. Think about that for a moment. 8 years of showing up and pretending to love someone who never made you feel welcome. 8 years of manufactured warmth in front of a camera while feeling something completely different inside. That kind of experience does not just fade away. It leaves a mark on a person that stays with them for life. And it was not just the emotional distance that made things difficult. Bavier was extremely particular about everything around her. The way scenes were shot, where she stood, how she was directed. Howard Morris, who played Ernest T. Bass and directed several episodes, once described working with her as navigating a landmine. Asking her to shift even a few inches for a camera shot could trigger a reaction nobody wanted to deal with. She had her way of doing things, and she expected everyone around her to fall in line. There is one scene that perfectly captures what Ron Howard's experience was really like on that set. You probably remember watching it and laughing out loud. It is called The Pickle Story. Aunt B makes a batch of homemade pickles that taste absolutely awful. And poor Opie has to sit there eating jar after jar of them, with a big smile on his face, pretending they are delicious. What the audience never knew is that Ron Howard genuinely hated pickles. Not a mild dislike. A real stomach-turning hatred of pickles. And there he was take after take forcing them down while the cameras kept rolling, and the director kept asking for one more. Working opposite Bavier during that scene only made everything worse. That one image says everything about what his time on that show really felt like. swallowing something deeply uncomfortable, smiling through it, doing it again, and then doing it again. Now, let us talk about Andy Griffith, because his story with Frances Bavier cuts even deeper. These were two adults, two experienced professionals, two people who had built real careers before they ever stepped foot in Mayberry. And somehow they could never find a way to genuinely connect off camera. The tension built slowly and quietly, and it never really left. At one point, Griffith decided he was going to fix it. He was not the kind of man who left problems sitting unresolved. So he got in his car and drove to Bavier's home unannounced. No phone call ahead of time. No warning. Just a man showing up at someone's front door, hoping a real face-to-face conversation could heal years of distance and tension. It backfired completely. Bavier was intensely private about her personal space and her personal life. An unannounced visit was not a warm gesture to her. It felt like an invasion. And rather than opening a door between them, that visit slammed one shut even harder. The wall between them grew higher after that day, not lower. 4 years after that, things stayed exactly where they were. Cold, distant, unresolved. Then everything changed. Bavier got seriously ill. And when you are lying in a hospital bed, facing the end of your life, the things you spent years protecting suddenly stop feeling worth protecting. The pride that kept you distant fades away. The walls you built so carefully start to come down. And what is left underneath all of it is just the plain truth. She picked up the phone and called Andy Griffith. After years of silence and tension and unresolved hurt, she called him. And what she said completely floored him. She apologized. Not a small, polite, diplomatic apology designed to keep the peace. A real one. She told him she was sorry they had not gotten along better. She said it was her fault. She admitted she had been difficult. She acknowledged how much he had contributed to the show and gave him credit she had never once given him before. It was the most honest moment in the entire history of that show, and almost nobody ever saw it. Frances Bavier passed away in 1989 at 86 years old. She spent her final years in Siler City, North Carolina, not far from the fictional world she helped create. Andy Griffith also lived to 86, passing away quietly at his beloved home in North Carolina. Two people, years of deep tension. And in the end, one phone call that said everything that should have been said so much sooner. Now here is the part one promised you. The part that makes Ron Howard's entire story suddenly click into place. Howard grew up to become one of Hollywood's most respected directors. Apollo 13, A Beautiful Mind, Frost Nixon, a career that speaks entirely for itself. But what makes him truly fascinating is not just what he created. It is what he learned along the way. He learned it first on that set as a boy. He learned that a person can smile at you every single day and still never really let you in. He learned to pay close attention to the gap between the image someone projects and who they actually turn out to be. That lesson came roaring back years later in a way he never expected. Howard made a film based on J.D. Vance's memoir, Hillbilly Elegy. At the time, Vance was simply a writer with a powerful story about growing up poor in rural America. Howard connected with it deeply and put his name behind it. Then Vance became a politician. And the person Howard saw in those pages looked nothing like the person now speaking on a national stage. Howard was not loud about his disappointment, but he made it clear. He was surprised. He was let down. And he was not going to pretend otherwise. Sound familiar? A warm image. A compelling story. A person who turns out to be something completely different from what you believed. Ron Howard has lived that same lesson more than once. First, as a child eating pickles, he hated next to a woman who never warmed up to him. Then, as a filmmaker who trusted someone's story only to watch that person become someone unrecognizable. The lesson is always exactly the same. Do not assume what is behind the smile. Pay attention. Think for yourself. Never let a good story make you stop asking hard questions. That is what the Andy Griffith Show really taught us. Not through the scripts or the characters, but through the real lives of the real people making it every single week. The show sold America a dream. A perfect small town. A perfect family. A place where everything worked out. And the people creating that dream were living something completely different just off camera. That gap between image and reality is not just a Hollywood story. It is a human story. We all smile through the pickles sometimes. But what separates people like Ron Howard is that they remember. They take what life teaches them and they use it wisely. So next time you sit down and watch the Andy Griffith Show, enjoy every single moment of it. But remember what you learned today. The most interesting story was never the one playing out on your screen. It was always the one happening just out of frame. Drop a comment below and tell me which part of this surprised you the most. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and click the next video on your screen right now.